Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. On October 31st last year, two people wearing masks and holding guns walked into Third National Bank in Midland City, Midlands. One of them shouted, "Everybody be cool, this is a robber." The lone customer at the bank put her hands up. She was terrified, trembling. But the lone employee at the bank, the teller, wasn't trembling. He wasn't afraid. That's because that employee, the defendant, Parker Barron, was in on the robbery from the beginning. Now, he wasn't holding a gun. He wasn't wearing a mask. Today you're going to learn that the defendant's job was to make sure that the other robbers didn't get caught. And to understand how he did that, I want you to keep one phrase in mind throughout this trial. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. You see, today you're going to learn that underneath the defendant's desk at the bank is an alarm that contacts the police. And the defendant was supposed to activate that alarm the moment those robbers walked in. You'll learn that he never did. The defendant made sure that the police would hear no evil. And you'll also learn that Third National Bank has a security camera. Now, the day before the robbery, the defendant moved that camera so that it wouldn't record any footage of those robbers walking in with guns. The defendant made sure that anyone watching that footage would see no evil. And after the robbery, the defendant was questioned by the police. You'll learn that he lied to them over and over and over again. To cover his tracks, the defendant made sure to speak no evil. And because of these actions, the defendant has been charged with armed bank robbery. As the prosecution, we carry the burden of proof in this case. We have to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that Parker Barron helped with this robbery. Now, to be guilty of armed bank robbery, you don't have to be the one holding the gun. You only need to have participated in or aided in the crime. And to meet our burden, we're going to be calling two witnesses who were in the bank when it was robbed. First, you're going to hear from that customer, Jackie Foley. Now, pay attention as Miss Foley describes how the defendant was acting during the robbery. Pay attention as she describes how it seemed like those robbers knew the defendant. And pay attention as she describes a mysterious woman who she saw the defendant meeting just a few days before the robbery. Now, today you're going to learn exactly who that woman was, because you're going to hear from one of the robbers himself, a man named Charlie Floyd. And Mr. Floyd will explain that the person who organized this robbery is a career criminal, a woman who went by the name Rose. Now, today you'll see a sketch of Rose, and you'll learn that Rose was the person the defendant was seen meeting. Now, Mr. Floyd will explain that Rose assigned the defendant two tasks: to move that camera and to make sure the alarm wasn't activated. You'll learn that the defendant did exactly that, because you're going to hear from the lead investigator in this case, Special Agent Kelly James of the FBI. Agent James will tell you that when he arrived on the scene, he found that camera was moved and that the alarm had not been activated. He'll also tell you that he found the defendant's fingerprint on that camera. Now, when Agent James asked the defendant about that alarm, he claimed he activated it. When he asked the defendant about that camera, the defendant claimed he never touched it. Members of the jury, today the evidence will show that the defendant chose not to activate that alarm, that the defendant moved that camera, that the defendant lied to the police to cover his tracks. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. It's how the defendant committed this crime. So today, we're going to ask you to listen to all the testimony the defendant doesn't want you to hear. We're going to ask you to examine all the evidence the defendant doesn't want you to see. And at the end of this trial, will ask you to say the one word the defendant doesn't want you to speak. Guilty.